The journeys of Jean-Luc Picard did not begin when Dodge showed up on his vineyard asking for help. He's an old veteran on the new series Star Trek Picard, but his trials truly began on the classic series Star Trek The Next Generation. It's time to take a look at Captain Picard as he was in the beginning, as well as everything else that has set up modern Trek as we know it. Prepare to slingshot around the sun for time warp, because we're going back.
I feel friendship for you. I'm ashamed. You've got to hear me!
Not that far.
Captain's log, stardate 41153.7. Our destination is planet Deneb 4.
There we go. It's time for another look at the episode that began The Next Generation, Encounter at Farpoint. Welcome to SYFY WIRE's Warp Factor Classic Blend. Engage! Prepare for a mission briefing! This episode first aired in 1987. If you haven't seen it, it's new to you. If you're really waiting for the right time to watch it fresh, then I guess all crew to spoiler stations, shields up, and because it's from 1987, yellow alert! Jean-Luc Picard takes command of Starfleet's new flagship, the Galaxy-class Enterprise NCC-1701D. He and some of his crew, Lieutenant Commander Data, Counselor Troy, Lieutenant Worf, and Lieutenant Tasha Yar, are on their way to Farpoint Station, where they have additional crew to pick up and a mystery to solve.
Simply solve the mystery of Farpoint Station.
As simple as that.
That's when an intergalactic all-powerful super being named Q derails them and puts all of humanity on blast for being a dangerous, savage child race. His words. He orders them to return to Earth, but Picard does not comply. He separates the Enterprise into two parts and attempts to escape, but Q catches up to them and puts them on trial. Q decides that the mission to Farpoint will prove whether or not humanity is worthy to trek through the stars. Arriving at Farpoint, Picard picks up his first officer, Commander Riker, who oversees the reconnection of the ship. He also picks up Lieutenant Geordi LaForge, Dr. Beverly Crusher, and her son, Wesley. The Bandy, led by Grappler Zorn, haven't named much, want to give the seemingly perfect Farpoint Station to the Federation for their own use. Picard and the crew gets to the bottom of things quickly. The station is actually a living being, and its mate is close by. They get the station to revert to its original giant space jellyfish form, where it locks tendrils with the other giant space jellyfish. Reminded me of the space orchids from Picard. Anyone else? No? Okay. Q is satisfied and the trial is over for now. Picard and crew go and see what else is out there, with JL musing that most of their missions will probably be much more interesting. The two giant space jellyfish get married on Risa and live in harmony with each other for the next 5,000 years. I made that up, but we never see them again, so who knows?
Sukat! His eyes uncovered!
Does Encounter at Farpoint set the stage for Star Trek Picard, as well as the entirety of Trek in this time period, with new lore and references coming right in our faces faster than Picard throws Wesley off the bridge?
Children are not allowed on the bridge.
Was the saucer separation truly necessary in this episode? A big yes, and probably not. It was cool though. SOCAT, his eyes uncovered! Everything 24th century begins here. Design-wise, the look of the Enterprise D, both interior and exterior, guided Trek for years to come. The uniforms are new and very tight. These scuba onesies were so tough on the backs of the cast that they were replaced with more comfortable versions in Season 3. Still, the color change of red to command and yellow to security/engineering, a big swap from the original series, remains in place all the way up to the new Picard series. A Skant version of the uniform is worn by Troy in this episode, and Yar wears one briefly at the end of the episode, but this uniform variant wouldn't stick around for long. Still, they aren't just for women. Men can be seen donning the Skant in this episode, as well as in the Season 1 episodes Haven, Conspiracy, Where No One Has Gone Before, and 11001001. Who doesn't like a good Skant? I have some myself. I'm wearing one right now, you just can't see it. Handheld communicators gave way to comm badges, giving the Starfleet uniform insignias new purpose. Type 2 phasers were updated into the Dustbuster design and would soon be modified again because Dustbuster. And the holodeck, a Trek standard, is first seen in this episode. Jean-Luc tells a beardless Riker early on that he is not a family man and that he would need help dealing with the children on his ship. Need help from Riker in terms of not looking like an ass, his words.
Oh, I would appreciate it if you could keep me from making an ass of myself with children. Sir? I'm not a family man, Riker, and yet Starfleet has given me a ship with children aboard.
This is something that JL would adapt to over the course of the series quite successfully in episodes such as the Season 5 episode Disaster. Takes him a little while on that one, but he gets there. He's even better at this in Picard, notably caring for a young Elnor in the flashback sequences. Data's debut happens here, being a true automaton and not very human at all. He doesn't get humor and he doesn't even know how to whistle. This is where his exploration of humanity begins, and among other things, his signature head tilt, which Soji would later inherit, begins here too. Riker and Troy are reunited in this episode, having known each other previously as part of their backstories. They'll have a long way to go until they are happy married on Nepenthe, with multiple other love interests along the way, less said the better, but we all know that they do get there. Paul Meany appears in this episode as the yet-to-be-named Miles O'Brien, going on to recur on TNG for 5 seasons before becoming a main character on DS9 for its entirety, ending that series by going on to teach at Starfleet Academy. In the time period of Picard, he could still be doing that. Just saying. The Ferengi begin to be built up as major new antagonists. Picard makes a reference to them possibly eating their past associates, not sure if there's a rule of acquisition for that or not. They'd meet the Ferengi very soon in the episode The Last Outpost. They did not prove to be formidable villains, so they were altered to become the bothersome ultra-capitalists of the galaxy, and the way was clear for the new big bad to be invented, the Borg. The Borg were the result. Scarier than the Ferengi. The entire Q framework was added by Gene Roddenberry to the existing script from DC Fontana when it was decided that the pilot should be a full 2 hours. Some were worried that Q would end up being a rehash of the Squire of Gothos from the TOS episode of the same name, but John Delancey made him distinct. Q would appear in every season, always having a very special relationship with Picard. He did make his way onto other series to experience other captains. Janeway mostly tolerated him, kind of, but Sisko, he just punched him right in the face. When it comes to Trek stories that could still be explored in future seasons of Picard, Q is one of the biggest opportunities. May he return to baffle, bother, annoy, and amuse once more. The trial never really ended, after all.
Earl Grey never fails.
Earl Grey never fails. And this pilot doesn't fail to load us up with the classic quotes. So many standards are heard here for the first time, Make It So included. The lines like, let's see what this Galaxy-class starship can do, and let's see what's out there stand way out, as does Picard's entire defense of humanity in the trial. The honor has to go to a truly classic character who makes a brief return. DeForest Kelley appears for one scene as Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy, now an admiral, passing the torch from one series to the next. He has a conversation with Data, who definitely reminds him of Spock, and he says,
"Well, it's a new ship, but she's got the right name. Now, you remember that, you hear?
I will, sir.
You treat her like a lady, and she'll always bring you home."
Always bring you home indeed, and she always did, until she crashed. Bless you, Bones, and bless Earl Grey. Never fails.
We've passed your little test.
Temper, mon capitaine.
Get off my ship. I do so only because it suits me to leave.
but I will not promise never to appear again.
This is the pilot of the revamped series, so they only went forward from here. Data's exploration of humanity was a huge theme for Trek as a whole, and the entire first season of Picard more or less used it as a spine. Data's days are over, but Soji's journey has just begun. We're gonna guess that she can whistle just fine. Tasha Yar doesn't live through the season, but thanks to some guest appearances, time travel, and alternate realities, her Romulan daughter, Sela, is a thing in the future and could potentially be getting her Zhat Vash on. Who knows? We've already mentioned how the return of Q would make perfect sense, so what other characters would we like to see return? Who's in the mix? Who's here that... Oh, I know. Crusher Watch! Crusher Watch! What? Oh, you thought this was done? No, she's in this episode. She's introduced here, just like everyone else. Oh, the attraction between her and JL is palpable, even though she's mourning the loss of her husband, Jack, who Picard served with. Jack. It's a complicated Skant. Okay, it's one complicated Skant, I admit that. She's got Wesley in tow, and Picard becoming a father figure / mentor to Wesley, something that the show would deal with whenever it felt like it. I mean, this mentorship has a bit of a shaky Skant when Picard throws both of the Crushers off of the bridge in this pilot.
Get off the bridge, both of you.
You have a perimeter alert, sir.
JL would lighten up as the series continued, and will probably continue to lighten up even more now that he's in a fully functional synth body. As for the good Dr. Beverly Crusher, do you see the simmering chemistry between her and Jean-Luc? Season 1 of TNG was loaded with will they, won't they drama until they eased off that a little bit. Still, this episode is the one that lit that fire. They lit it. They started that fire, so gotta follow through on the fire or else the whole place gonna burn. This love will continue, and it will continue even further. Our hailing frequencies are now open. Last week's poll didn't exist. This week's poll can be found on Twitter as well as YouTube. Do Q's indictments of humanity have merit?
I will answer only specific charges.
Are you certain you want a full disclosure of human ugliness?
The choices are A, not at all, B, some points are fair, or C, he's totally right, we're awful. Don't forget to name a particular episode that you would like to see us feature. One viewer has already called out the original series episode, Balance of Terror. They must have read my mind. Where will we venture next? Well, not to Code of Honor, I can tell you that much. Never again. We'll be back next week with another episode that is of vital importance, not just to Star Trek Picard, but Star Trek as a whole. In the meantime, scats for the memories. Blue skies smiling at me. Big old space jellyfish flying free.